What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of We Are Konami. Today, we are going over part two of starting and finishing your projects. Today, I'm joined by our host and our founder, J Mac, also joined with Sav and Varun. Today, we are going to be going over part two of starting and finishing projects. You guys ever have a project you started and finished? Let us know.
I freaking love it. That was a good intro. That was a good one.
Is that good?
He
All
took
right.
over he took over and said, "Yo, J-Mac, let me show you how it's done."
Whoa, I don't know about all right.
That's what he did. Alright, okay, so who wants to get started because it is part 2. Last episode was between us 3, Nicolas was not involved because he actually had personal things to do. But now that you're in, Nicolas, did you wanna take lead actually?
Mostly as a aspiring filmmaker, starting and finishing projects is like my whole life. And I have ADHD, so starting stuff isn't the problem, it's finishing it for me. And what I find is you kind of like have to commit like time to it. You have to force yourself to commit time to it, even when you don't want to like do something. If you don't want to, because a lot of the stuff that comes from like finishing projects, for me at least, is the motivation aspect of it. Trying to get myself like motivated to like, because when I start something, like the fire's hot, it's burning, and then I start to get a little bored, and then I go like, yeah, but then I start thinking about how much time this film is going to take, because it's always when I'm doing a film, it's like it's going to take time. I got to buy all the props. I had to do all that stuff. So I'll come to that one. And you know what? I'll pause writing here and I'll deal with this other stuff later. And then sometimes I never get back to the project. And I figured out what I have to do is go like take it one step at a time, put it in phases. It's like, what phase are we in right now? Writing. So just write the script, dude. Like, don't worry about the props and all that other crap. Like, we'll worry about that when the script's finished. So it's kind of just taking one step at a time.
Honestly, that sounds so familiar to what I have to do when I have to edit my own vlogs and everything. Starting is never the issue. Like, I find that I'm super fueled up and like ready to go. But the moment I'm either in the middle of it, that's where I start procrastinating. And I'll leave that project, like I'll leave it there just sitting around for a couple days, knowing that I have to finish it. And I'm just like, I have no motivation to do this anymore. Like that's always my hard part. Is just trying to finish is always my main struggle.
Finding that motivation to like go back in, because for me what I usually do is I try to like get re-inspired again by like maybe the stuff that gave me the idea in the first place. I'll go back in and like look at like maybe the media that I was looking at when I was getting the idea for the film. So maybe that's a certain genre of movie or certain genre of game or magazine or like books or something, and I'll try and get re-inspired and kind of like rekindle that fire.
I can relate 100%. I do the same thing. I'll actually watch videos just to hype me up again, and I'll be like, "Yo, what am I doing? Why am I slacking? This person, look at that person's edit. Like he or she's on point. They're always doing it weekly kind of thing. Why am I not doing that?" And then I find my motivation all over again.
Yeah, and, like, I get that little, like, competitive spirit in me too, when I look at, like, a lot of people, because I still follow a lot of my old classmates from my film program, see that they're still making films and stuff, and I'll go like, "Oh, I gotta get into it, man. I can't let them pass me up." It's like, "Nah, I told them we would work together, so we gotta work together." Like,
I mean, that's a good type of way to like hype you up, motivate you. It's just a way to inspire you, but not in a negative way of competition.
If you're looking at a project as a whole, it's a lot, but if you kind of break it up into parts, it gets a little bit easier. And I think a good kind of analogy to put it as is like think of it as like a video game, right? So if you're going through in story mode, you have to complete the first level before you unlock the second, before you unlock the third, all that stuff. Think of it as like not trying to jump back and forth all through all the different levels. You're probably not going to understand everything or you're just going to get lost, but try and complete like level one first. So like, as Nicholas was saying, just like writing the script, just finish the script first and then move on to the next one. I think that'll help too, because if you kind of like go in order, you finish piece by piece. It's not like you're trying to jump back and finish things. You're finishing it while, the fire is still hot.
don't get distracted by the side missions. The story missions are important.
For somebody who is having a hard time, because you guys are saying like the main quest or the side quest, right? What kind of tips would you give that person?
As an artist, I think maybe it's a good metaphor for pretty much every other form of creativity because you're trying to take a completely invisible image in your imagination and create it in a way where the whole world can look at it if they can see. To me, the thing is, as a creative person, you can start to hit roadblocks if you keep approaching your creativity or your process from the same angle again and again and again. Like you're digging tunnels under the earth. If you keep going one direction, you might eventually hit bedrock and then you got to turn. You got to find another way. So I think have a flexible and fun or just as abstract as possible way of approaching your craft. If that means like trying to, for me, one thing is I'll flip my paintings or drawings upside down and look at them for a little while. I'll mirror them or I'll flip them around a bit. I'll look at them at certain angles and distances just to get an idea. Even my creativity process, sometimes I'll approach things from a completely different way because there is the natural movies and shows and music that I like. I think everyone does that. But sometimes for creativity, I'll just look out the window and I'll look at certain branches on a tree and I'll let my imagination start crafting faces or figures, just what I see in like the branches or in the stain of like granite on a tile or the grain of wood on a wooden door or table. So it's like be as abstract as you can when you hit that dead end. You just need to approach it from a different angle.
I definitely agree with that, man. Especially the whole like looking at stuff like abstract. As an artist, dude, anytime I'm trying to draw something, like I will find myself staring at like a spot on the wall because the lines move a certain way and it's like inspiring me. And I'm like, I'm getting it. I got it.
Oh yeah.
I got it. Like it's like I'll have a whole writer's block and I'll look at a coffee cup and be like, I know exactly what I want to draw now.
What inspires you, Sam?
Oh yeah. So,
An awkward.
uh,
I got this, guys.
that was in a podcast. Oops.
There he is.
She's like listening. She's like, man, this podcast is awesome. And she's,
Oh shit, I'm on it.
oh wait, I'm on it.
I kind of agree though, like, letting yourself or opening up your mind to like the abstract things, but like for me especially it's just like honestly changing scenery. I mean, I think I mentioned this in part 1, but just like taking a walk, like an hour-long walk outside literally helps me so much, not because like I'm looking at all these different things, but because it's like I'm forcing myself to be in my own mind for an hour, and with that it lets me think about all these different things. And I think another thing that helps too is like if you hit that roadblock, if you take that break and you think of something creative, write it down. That's another thing that I should let, kind of hurts me too, is if I think of a really cool idea but I don't write it down, then I'll forget it in the next 30 minutes. I'm like, oh shoot, I should have wrote that down because that's a great idea. Whenever you have, like, if you're hitting a roadblock, that'll help you too, is if in the past you had already written down all your ideas, you can go back and look at it and be like, oh yeah, I remember I want to do this. And then it could help you, like, regain your passion for it and kind of, like, look at things from a different approach and start again.
I mean, I think breaking everything down with like checklists or writing down the like your plan or equation is like really important because we can't really multitask that well. And as creatives, our mind can come up with so many different ideas at once, but we can only focus on one of them at a time. So if you don't write it down, you forget it. And if you don't plan it out, it becomes overwhelming. So I think like you have to be realistic about your attention span and like how much you can hold in your awareness at once and just break it down into bite-sized levels to that degree. So yeah, write everything out. Because as a artist who had like, story ideas my whole life, I just recently like write your good ideas down because you will forget them. And it is easier to like start a project when you have a bunch of good ideas already instead of constantly starting from scratch.
But you know what? The one thing that you said that hit me the most is understand. It's like a person needs to understand what's their max capacity in that day.
There's a quote in my favorite game that basically says, "Pressure creates diamonds, but it also creates rubble."
So for part 1, we had a lot of going back and forth. So Nicholas, is there any other experiences or something that you're currently going through that you want to, talk about, probably give us some tips here or there?
One of the things that I'm struggling with is having too many ideas rattling around at once and wanting to do them all at once to the point where I have a bunch of half finished scripts that haven't been like touched. Whereas like if I just, focus in and follow my own advice and take it one step at a time, I'll have like one at least one good like finished script. But I think some advice I would give to people is like let yourself don't let yourself start thinking about everything all at once. You know? Like, and as easy as that is, like, yeah, think ahead, but like maybe don't think several steps ahead. Think like an arm's length ahead.
Another way to look at it is like, if arm's length is too abstract, think about it in terms of days. Like, what can you get done in a day? And don't look any further than that. Besides, if you want to plan it out in a week, like, okay, this day I'm going to do this day I'm going to do this day I'm going to do that, and plan it for a week, that's fine. I think just keeping things in a way that it's not like you're looking a whole year ahead, because then it becomes overwhelming, right? So just do it like day by day or even hour by hour, what you can accomplish, then it feels more manageable.
People who are going in like a creative field of things, especially in filmmaking, you're gonna like realize that it's it's very mentally taxing. Especially if you're doing everything yourself. Like as an indie filmmaker, you're gonna wear a lot of hats because a lot of the time it's just gonna be you. You have to be your own writer, you have to be your own producer, you have to be your own editor. And it's like a lot of that can seem overwhelming, but just start with what you know how to do. If you know how to like cut a few shots together on like iMovie, do something that just requires that. Don't do anything that requires you to have explosions or like crazy story or anything. Just take your phone, do a few shots, cut them together on iMovie, and do that. And you know, as you go on, incrementally challenge yourself. That's another way. Like I kind of avoid burnout, which is another thing that you're gonna like run into. Is I incrementally will just set aside a day to like challenge myself. I'll give myself a writing challenge, or I'll give myself a drawing challenge. I'll go like, okay, I'm going to give myself a word and I have to create a character based on that one word alone.
Because of all the experiences that you've had. So let's talk about the current. How are you feeling when it comes to the writing, the filming, the editing? Are you feeling a lot more confident? Do you still find yourself, struggling a little bit mentally or maybe emotionally? Like just spill it for us.
Currently, I am feeling all right. I'm confident. Like I know what my writing style is, and people have told me that my writing style is pretty good, and I know what I need to work on. And I know that I'm not, completely adverse to like anybody giving me feedback. In fact, I want negative feedback. I don't want people like I tell people the first thing I tell people is don't be nice. You don't have to be nice because I'm your friend. If it sucks, if it's booty, tell me so that I don't upload that. Otherwise, when I get bad reviews, I'm gonna look at you crazy. But yeah. But yeah, like currently right now, it's just I still kind of compare myself to other writer and directors and kind of go like, oh man, that's such a genius thing. I didn't think of that. And it's like, yeah, I may not have thought of that, but I'm gonna think of the next best way to iterate on it.
So how long did it take you to be in this current mental state?
Oh boy. It took me, let's see, I'm in my last semester of college now. It took me since I graduated high school. Because as soon as I got out into the world and had to get out and do stuff for myself, I was like, "Oh crap." I was comparing myself to all these people and like I was like I felt like I was in over my head, and now it took years for me to get out of that, "Oh, I'm in over maybe I should quit. Maybe I should quit," and go to like, "Nah, dude. Keep going." Like keep going. Show everybody that you got what it takes.
Naturally, a lot of us think that in a year or two from now, we'll be solid. Like mentally, we'll be a lot more confident. Like people don't really acknowledge how long can it take for a person to really just hit that, like, hey, mentally I'm feeling good, I'm confident with what I'm doing, I know I've
Yeah.
learned like my trial and errors, this is what works for me, this is how I succeeded with my filming, my writing, my artwork, like anything that you guys are doing in the artistic side. It's just always good to hear from another person saying it took me this long, it didn't take a day,
Yeah.
it took me years. That's reality.
Keep at it and trust your process and love your mistakes. Because as an artist, someone who draws, I can only draw at the level that my skill is right now. My mistakes are what I improved in. Like I'm drawing at a current level and then I see a line that I made mistakes on and I realize, okay, that mistake is better than what I've been doing for the past 5 years. And then I improve my craft. So love your mistakes because at least one of them is going to be great. Don't be afraid of making mistakes along the way.
you're gonna make them, whether you like it or not. It's when you start working with clients and you start working with customers that be prepared to make your first mistakes with money because it's gonna suck and it's gonna feel bad. But I think the best I can do is give you some advice. And on my end, I would say definitely stick to the contract. Everyone who's working in any industry that involves freelancing, you want to have a good contract. And if a person doesn't respect the contract, that's your best way of exiting early. Because if you don't have a contract, if you go on word of mouth, you can end up in a situation where 3, 4, 5 months down the line, you're not getting paid and there's too many disagreements to continue. It's better to just have the contract and realize within a week or two that they're not following the rules rather than waiting 3, 4 months of your work, later and having to throw all of that away. I mean, I'm sure Sab, you probably you probably have had this more in filmmaking because you got to work with so many more clients.
Currently, I'm a content creator. I went to college for film, but I picked up my camera 10 years ago and I've been working at it for 10 years. I went to college for 4. And so that just tells you like how I got to where I am today. It's not one of those things like you have to learn, you have to kind of build up that eye, that creative eye to the point where people come to you. If your work has gotten so good, I feel like that's the big turning point right there as a creator is realizing that you don't have to do things for free all the time. And being a content creator, I started my Instagram account about a year ago, and it wasn't until like 6 months down the road that I realized, okay, I can't do stuff for free anymore because I mean, free doesn't pay the bills. Learning how to price your work, I think, is a very difficult thing that I had to get over. Was just, in the beginning I was like, oh yeah, $20 an hour, that's fine. But $20 an hour, especially here in the US, is minimum wage. Especially for me as a filmmaker or just like a videographer, you're going in with equipment, you're going in with 10 years of experience. You have all of this under your belt that not someone off the street can do. Like, you have to know your worth, how much you can charge people, and make it a business. And what Varun said about the contracts, I had to learn this the hard way. I did a couple projects where just through over text, like, oh yeah, sure, I'll do this, and then whatever, and they never paid me. And I think having that in there helps tremendously, and also setting the ground rules, like, okay, this is exactly what we discussed. This is what you want. This is what I'm gonna give you. This is how much I'm gonna get paid, and this is when I'm gonna get paid.
For anybody else that just started off, how do they know when it's their time to do that?
For people starting out, and I still have to do this actually, is you have to pitch your services to other people. In the beginning, I didn't have a set price. I kind of just like, if people came to me, they're like, oh, we like your stuff, like, how much do you charge? You have to kind of go off what their budget is too. You kind of learn along the way. And the first, you might do it for free or you might do it for like really cheap. But as you go along and the more you gain, then you can kind of like understand how much people are paying you and price yourself based off that.
Okay. So then with everything that we're talking about within this part 2, is there anything else you guys want to share? Any tips, maybe another experience?
Don't be discouraged.
Don't be afraid to do something like weird, crazy. Don't be afraid to do something that's experimental. Like, it may not get all the eyes that you want, but you'll feel better for getting it out, and who knows, you might be able to turn it into something because there's a huge market for people who like experimental stuff.
Try to find your own voice, be unique. That's what makes all of us important, is how different all of our styles are. But most importantly, I'd say be well educated about the things going on in your industry when it comes to pay rates and contract laws, taxes, the kind of documents you might have to send. And also be comfortable with kind of being a fool. Like, don't take yourself too seriously. Treat whatever craft you're doing with respect, but don't take yourself so seriously, because whatever skill you start, you're gonna kind of be bad at the beginning. Like, your drawings are gonna be a little wonky and look a little silly at the beginning. But if you have something you want to express and you want to get to a point where you can express that, accurately, keep at it. You will get better.
And don't be afraid to ask for help. Even the strongest of us need a little bit of help sometimes.
And be confident. Be confident in your worth.
All right, and let's bring this project to a close. That was a beautiful episode of We Are Konami. That was part 2 of starting and finishing projects. All right, we were joined here by our host and founder, J Mac, Sav, and Varun. And of course, your boy here, Stingray Killer, aka Nick. We hope you guys enjoyed the podcast, whether you were watching intently or doing something else in the background and just had us on for noise. We hope you enjoyed, and we hope we could be a very positive part of your day. Have a good one, guys.